discussion. So let's start recording. So in a sense, this is a somewhat abstract, but you can just share what are the one thing we can learn from this. So just feel free to share whatever you want. And so our presentation may be good or not good. It doesn't matter. But anyway, let's have some comments on that. Joshua Perez, you are a man of insight. So could you share some of what's one thing you can remember through this first lesson? Yeah.
Well, I liked the discussion we had about Abraham. His development in leadership took a long time.
Oh, okay.
Throughout that, you really see God shaping him. So one thing I really thought about was when you're called into leadership, you're really called to being molded. Leadership is a process of being molded more and more into the image of Christ. So that's what I hold on to.
Oh, okay, that's great. Okay, all right. So how about Curtis? Do you have any comments or you want to say? Yeah, go ahead. At least we have a chance to talk in few words, and then if you want to go a little longer, I think that we can talk more. Okay. At least Curtis, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I like the. I think one thing I want to take away is the idea that, like, I think you had said that leadership is not like a destination, but a journey.
Mm-hmm.
That I mean, I really can't really like have like in leader kind of thing. So, but yeah, I think that's one thing I will take away and see throughout this cohort. I did have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
In regards to, and this is in regards to like module 3. As our presentations, you said that will be very similar to what you just did. So are we talking primarily about what the, for example, I'm doing Hamlet. Am I going to talk about primarily what Hamlet's about, or how that relates to like stages?
So I think what you can do is you can prepare Hamlet in two parts. What is a Hamlet story? Okay, for first the Hamlet story, and the second part is that what does a Hamlet story has to do with leadership? Okay, so Hamlet is really about his role as a prince. He's a public role, and also he's a private. I think his sense of loyalty to his dead father and doubt about his mother, and so forth. So and then he has a loving. He's a fiance, and all these things. So this Hamlet situation is a little more complicated than Romeo. Romeo has to deal with only Juliet, okay? And of course, there's other things. So you can talk about Hamlet, have a story. Then what does the Hamlet is teaching about leadership? That means why Hamlet did whatever. I mean, the story is a half of the story. But if you're in the Hamlet situation, would you act differently to avoid this tragedy? Okay? So I think the point is that in the second point is interest. Based on the kind of interest you have a different way of doing things. So what is interest is the life priorities. Okay? So story, implications. Okay?
Perfect.
Right, go ahead. So how about Eric Lopez? Please make comments and share your thought.
I like the comparison of I guess you can say like a novice or novice leader and experienced leader. Just to kind of, it's a good way to gauge where you're at with your own leadership, and it is pretty practical. So like be easily swayed by the outcomes of small battles, only sees things from a few steps ahead or beyond multiple steps, and implement a strategy for winning. So I found that very, very helpful. The transparent part, that's one thing I did have well, not a question, but I did wonder about that too, because usually we see transparency as a good thing, that we should learn transparency, not be like a wall where nobody really understands who you are, especially as a leader. But I guess compared to profoundness, I can kind of see how profoundness should be our goal, and rather than just being transparent.
So the people only talk about transparency as a virtue, but when you're transparent, that everybody knows what you think exactly. I don't think that's really a good idea in life, okay? Let's say you don't like a certain person, but you would say exactly how you feel. You cannot function in this world, all right? So when, I want to be a transparent person and so forth, there's a degree of transparency, but complete transparency is a foolish, in my opinion, okay? That's my point, right?
So that's talking about complete transparency.
The complete transparency.
Okay.
Transparency, meaningful way is one thing,
Right.
but complete transparency means nobody's is a complete transparency is everybody knows what you exactly think you are. So they can read your next move.
Okay. So that helps.
That aspect of complete transparency, in my opinion, is a foolish. It's not something we, in other words, we do not really, tell students or the children, you need to be completely honest. Then I think it will be very hard to live in this world. Okay?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Okay. All right then.
I was gonna.
Go ahead.
I was gonna share the same thing actually as Eric. I like that analogy of playing chess. Because I tend to look at my immediate situation, and I'm very impatient. So if the situation that I'm in is not favorable, I want to kind of change it right away. And I guess tend to kind of look at the big picture, but I want to kind of advance as soon as possible, be promoted, and take on more like leadership roles.
Okay.
But kind of like, I guess kind of like learning Abraham's life, and that combined with the analogy helped me to understand that I need to have a more big picture perspective and think about winning the war instead of trying to win every battle.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think that's a very good point. And now in Korea, here in the United States too, a lot of people commit suicide. The reason is they really think that's the end. There's no more further. But to those people, if they have a perspective in life, they will not do that, okay? They will not do that. So, for example, Bill Clinton, when he went through this humiliation, in Korea, I think people in that situation, they would ever commit suicide. But Bill Clinton, he didn't die, okay? He's okay now, right? So, in whatever life situation, even most humiliating situation, if we have a perspective, then we can go on. I think that, in that sense, perspective is very important. Now, Andrew Roberts, could you share your thoughts? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I really, what really stood out to me was Moses's life as well. And like you were saying, like, our journey as a leader starts with God's calling. So that's where everything should kind of start. And I also think, recognizing the challenges of being a leader, because I think a lot of what happens in a leader's life is very challenging. You have a lot of responsibility, personally and professionally and within your ministry. So I think, a lot of people want to hop into leadership roles without properly going through those different life stages and maturing as a person in their faith. So I guess you really saw that in Moses's life, where it took him 40 years to, get to the point where he was actually, a leader, but you still saw like, very deep reliance on Christ and through prayer, because he knew his frailties and needed Christ. So I think having a full view of the challenges and kind of the growth of a leader.
Okay. All right. That's a good point. I always thought that Moses 120 years, but maybe 180 years might be correct, because he lived 40 years, another 40 years after the 120 retired. Maybe he lived another 60 years before his death. Okay. Yeah. You know, to write the book of Genesis and other books, right? Okay. And anyway, thank you. How about Peter Hahn? Go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, or mute. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's really valuable lectures and the presentation. I learned a lot, actually. I really liked the books you recommend. So I would like to read all books, actually, you recommend. So, of course, I mean, I have a time limitation, so probably one book can possibly read. But in my lifetime, I just order the books and then read all book. Just read it. And especially, very interesting that you recommend the Shakespeare's book. Actually, I read most of them, but I just as a novel or literature way, I just read it. Oh, that's good book, good story. Oh, that good love story. But actually, through this, it's really teaches life and leadership. I haven't thought about it, so I think it's a very good chance. Actually, I will present Julius Caesar. So yeah, he's a little over age, like 50 or 60, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm close to 50, so yeah. So I will. I think it's a good model. Of course, his success is huge. I mean, I cannot compare, but there's a crisis and all things I can learn that. I'm so excited to prepare that. Yeah. And also, you share that 5 leadership stages is very interesting because of the because in medical field we learned that the Erik Erikson's psychosocial stages is very popular. So I think many of them learned here too. The A stage he divided, but there's the leadership also. There's the 5 stages very helpful. The questions and this is very profound questions. I think is good. And the one thing I really like is also the Paul Tournier. Yeah. You mentioned about the marriage. So I always, people ask me, why is the marriage is good? I thought it's good, but hard to explain, but he described really well. Marriages teaches us loyalty, forbearance, and self-restraint, then bigness. I think it's great, many other things. I think if someone asked me, I would answer this. Like, Paul Tournier say.
Okay. Paul Tournier, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I have a comment on the book, the reading assignment, that there are tons of leadership material around the world. You can read any books, and then all the books or all the material is focused on presenting the leadership skills or tools. Actually, that we can easily do that, but Professor Hong and I talked about this twice when we were organizing this class. So one of the the main purpose is not just to present the tools or skill, but we want to give the essence of the leadership development itself, so that you can read the books and then you can ponder upon what has been presented, reading the books and then comparing and then reflecting on your own leadership development. So from the very beginning, we want to say that this is not about giving you the tools or skill to use it for your leadership development, but this is more of an essence that we want you to imbibe so that you can read those books and meditate on those Bible passages or the Bible story, and then take the lesson from for yourself for life, so that you can continue to grow and then develop your skill for God and for your own self.
Okay, all right then. Thank you. So since the time is up, let me be very brief. So first one is the discussion board questions. Pastor Abraham, please post your discussion questions so that people can answer yours or mine. Either way, they can choose one.
Yeah, it's already posted. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Another one is the next Saturday presentation. Curtis already asked question about the Hamlet. Jonathan, Jonathan?
Yeah, I'm going next week.
Yeah, so Jonathan, you will be doing in Gordon McDonald's. Did you secure the book?
Yeah, I already got the book.
Okay, so then if you look at my PowerPoint slides, I just showed you But I think if you read the entire book, that's fine. If not, I think in the first main thesis. So whenever you read a book, is ordering your private world. That's the title. So what does it mean by ordering private world? Like number one, why ordering private world is important, how you order your private world, and then so if you order private world, so what happens? So I think if you can organize your presentation that way, or in ordering private world, he start with the sinkhole syndrome, what the sinkhole syndrome is, and then he talks about internal world and the external world and so forth. But whenever you make a presentation of a book, pay attention to the title of the book, then what this is, what is this, and why it is important, how did we have to do it, and then if so, why we have to do it, and if we do so, so what happens? So in those questions you have, I think you may be some meaningful presentation with even 12 minutes, okay? And then so I think as a rule, you can actually write a lot more than what you talk. So in a presentation, you instead of you just reading whatever written, I think you can show that, but a key point you communicate, and so people have a chance to ask questions. Okay. I hope today's session was useful for you. And then time is up. If you'd like to stay a little longer, I can stay a few more minutes, but otherwise we are done. So starting from next week, do you think it's okay to appoint Calvin as our technical coordinator? So he is